session of the day is, if you want to say, step 6 of our ERP process. Let me make this bigger, sorry. So we're here in the ERP planning, and you'll see how, you've seen how throughout each and every step, I asked you to document preparedness actions. When you will be doing this with your partners in country, at this stage of the planning, you start to have a long list of preparedness actions. Maybe you have documented them on a paperboard. Maybe you've documented them already in the work plan template. But I think at this stage of the planning, it's a good moment to start looking at all those preparedness actions. Maybe you'll find some might be redundant, and so maybe a bit of trimming and consolidating needs to be happening. And then importantly, you need to prioritize, because let's be realistic. We need to keep things like feasible, right? So you can't have a list of 100 preparedness actions. So you prioritize those key preparedness actions that are most relevant for you to tackle in a short, relatively short term, to build your higher level of emergency preparedness, and you put them in a work plan. So this session is really for you and your colleagues in country to take the time to do that, to have a moment during the planning where you build and refine your preparedness action work plan. But this week together, it's mainly for us to appreciate what's the purpose behind doing this, okay? So when do you do that, build that preparedness action work plan? Well, of course you do it if you organize an ERP workshop like this. Please do it, because this is really your preparedness action work plan is a key output of your planning process. But it can also be that, since you remember how at the beginning of the workshop I said that we should have ERP as not as a standalone 2-day workshop and that's it. No, it's an approach. That's something that it's a mindset. So it can be that during your regular work with your nutrition sector or cluster, even during your day-to-day, your regular cluster meetings, you can, from time to time, come with the realization that you have a gap in preparedness, and then you frame it as a preparedness action, and you add it in your preparedness action work plan. And you may have someone tasked to maintain, update, and monitor the implementation of those preparedness actions. Okay, and you can prioritize and do that jointly with your cluster partners to maximize the chance that collectively all partners feel engaged in collectively strengthening emergency preparedness. And you may even assign the responsibility of a few proactive partners in taking the lead in the implementation of a given preparedness as per the work plan. Okay, so the main purpose of this key output, the work plan, is to, first of all, this is a solid means to increase significantly the way you work on your preparedness, emergency preparedness. This is also going to guide you and your cluster by doing so in becoming a little bit more detailed and elaborate in identifying all those elements that are essential for responding timely to a crisis, and will be very helpful to help identify any additional resources that you may not have like thought of at first, and have this work plan also being costed. So it appreciates what it takes from both human and financial resources, and you can use that work plan also as something that will help you back up your advocacy point, your pitch when you do fund mobilization. Okay, and then this is an output with which, together with also the ERP plan, with which you can go back to your government counterpart, or maybe colleagues working on a more long-term development goals, and help them appreciate all the planning for disaster risk that you've made, and help complement also those overarching national contingency plans. Okay, so we are proposing in the ERP toolkit that we've recently developed to use this template. This is a very simple, this is a very simple Excel file with, preparedness actions that could be defined for each and every step of the ERP planning, with a place where you put a time frame for a given preparedness action, a responsible entity, and a way to quickly monitor whether you're on time, delayed, or whether this is done. And in the preparedness, and again, in the guide, there are a lot of examples of preparedness that I have added there. You may find relevant sometimes to make the difference between minimum preparedness actions that would be done as part of your regular work as nutrition sector or cluster, and you may want to highlight more advanced preparedness action, or APAs, for, again, medium to high risk. Okay, for those where you need to advance more on the planning. So let me think a little bit. So yeah, you have all the generic preparedness action in the guide. We provide an ERP, a preparedness action work plan template, and you'll see that you can decide to work in any kind of document you may want to work on, of course. So if, as a nutrition cluster, you already have a work plan, you may already have your annual work plan, you may want to add a component in it where you are more focusing on all those preparedness action. You're framing things as preparedness more significantly, or you use that template on Excel, or you can also use the online Kobo forms that were specifically designed for that. So remember how all those forms are mirroring the step-by-step guide. And when you'll be building it, you can move some key highlights of your planning process in those forms that will then, once you submit at the end, automatically generate your ERP dashboard for a very visual way to see outcomes of your planning. So if you go on step 6 here, that is preparedness actions, you have here a box where you can insert the link to your work plan that might be in an Excel file hosted on your website somewhere. You can add it here. Or if you want, you can also add your preparedness actions one by one, prioritize. Don't add like 100 of them, but prioritize preparedness action there, so that when you submit those forms, ta-da, they are now here on the dashboard that is empty here because it's Zwanti-Polis and it's a draft in the making. But here you will find here your preparedness action work plan a little bit in the similar way we do for the dashboard we have for CCPM, cluster coordination performance monitoring exercise we do on an annual basis. You recall how we have some kind of a dashboard with all the core function of the cluster and the key objectives and how we monitor a little bit how we are progressing, performing on each of them. It will be here on that dashboard, okay? Okay, but so for now, we are going to do a very simple exercise. Coming back here. So we are going to pretend again that we are all the nutrition cluster partners of Zwantipolis, and that we have throughout all our planning identified a lot of preparedness actions, and we are going to consolidate them in the work plan. Okay, so you go and group one will focus on documenting or writing down in the plan, consolidating preparedness actions for step 1, risk analysis and monitoring. Group 2 focuses on step 2, scenario building and PIN calculation and refining key immediate needs. Group 3 will focus on step 4, everything that is needed for response analysis and response design. And today we are grouping group 4 and 5, all the French speaking countries, into one group. Group 4 will focus on all the preparedness action for operational arrangements. So in the folder here, okay, colleagues, the co-facilitators in your room, you can go on day 3 and you click on that file for session 10, preparedness action work plan. This is the file. I put the instructions here. Group 1 focuses on step 1, risk analysis. Group 2 on scenario building. Group 3, you need to scroll down. Remember, we are all working on the same tool because we are all together building our work plan for Zwantipolis. So group 3, you need to scroll down to be able to find your response analysis and design step. And group 3, you need to scroll down further for your preparedness action on planning for operational arrangements. Okay? Okay. I hope this is clear for everybody. And we give just 10 minutes for this. So maybe you want to recall any preparedness actions you identified as we went through all those steps in the past 2 days. Maybe you want to think and brainstorm again on some preparedness actions which you think are really relevant and you want to put them there. Maybe you want to look again at the Zwantipolis draft ERP plan. You decide. The point here, colleagues, is really for you to start appreciating the tool and appreciating how you put those into a work plan, and importantly, think of who can be responsible for what preparedness action. Give a timeline to it as well, okay? Okay, so we'll just give 10 minutes for that. I'm going to move you to your respective rooms, hoping it will work properly this time. Okay. See you later, colleagues. I'll come visit. Hello, welcome back.
Thanks.
Oh. Okay.
So we are all back in the main room. Okay, I hope we are all back. So thank you very much, colleagues, for this short brainstorming exercise.
So short.
It's very short. Yeah. So basically, again, here I'm trying to give you a bit of it's a way to explain how to use the workshop package again, and how you will do it with your partners. It's really more meaningful for you to do it with all your partners, and there you have a lot more time. So even my recommendation is that for that very step where the work plan is being put together for preparedness action, you may ask a partner, a volunteer during your workshop, before that session takes place, maybe the day before, as a homework, to start already putting a lot of the pre-identified preparedness action in the work plan, so that during your group work with your partners, you are actually looking at things that were already discussed and identified, and you just like prioritize, consolidate, refine. Here it doesn't work well because we didn't really take care of building our work plan as we were going, because we're on a case study. Okay, but I hope this can work well, again, to build in real time your preparedness action work plan with your partners when you do that in country. Okay, and remember, do not forget to assign a responsibility to someone who can commit to drive this preparedness action, to monitor and push for it to be implemented. Okay, do we want to take a few questions? Or we're not going to do really a restitution here, but if you have any remarks, any questions, anything that you want to ask at this stage. And it's not that easy to like this, just start recalling a preparedness action for a given step. So that's why, again, it's really worth doing it more at each and every step. You assign a participant to be responsible to documenting throughout a ERP workshop all the preparedness actions in the work plan. Do you think this could work? Because maybe I'm daydreaming a little bit. This might not be something easy to do in country. Do you think that could work? To build that work plan collectively with all your partners? Or even like during your day-to-day? Yes, Isaac, please come in.
Yes, Cecily. I think it's yeah, as part of the workshop, definitely it can. But I think the challenge is that the partner who will be able to provide input should be very much well vested and maybe very familiar with ERP. More likely, it may make a lot of sense if either the sector coordinator or someone who has familiar, or maybe if you have participants like your OCHA, they can help actually providing some kind of input. Alternatively, I was suggesting that maybe if at a global level, there are some kind of examples of the different contexts of some of these kind of actions, which can be given maybe like 2 examples for each of these, just to guide someone who is maybe at a country level, look, these are the kind of maybe activities which may be expected here, and it may be very easy to add some more or to reflect them in their context. So that's my suggestion. But I understand that given most of the time partners are so tight with many things, and even spending 3 days in a workshop, it may be also some challenging. It's more likely that maybe either sector coordinator or someone may populate it and give it some kind of initial document for comments and review. And that's what we normally do for most of the things if you want things to move. Otherwise, if you start from scratch for anything in a workshop or even in this big kind of document or any other thing which you need to review, if you don't have a draft for colleagues and partners to start working on, it becomes very difficult if you start from scratch. Yeah. That's my experience. Over to you, Cecil.
Yes, thank you, Isaac. So I understand your point, and definitely I see very well what you're describing. However, I think that it cannot be only upon the responsibility of the sector or cluster coordinator to be in charge of monitoring that work plan, to be responsible for driving some of those preparedness actions. I guess it depends a little bit how the preparedness action is also phrased and framed. Maybe if it's a very large or very vague or something that is quite demanding, if it's not specific enough, maybe it's going to be indeed a challenge. But if this is, for instance, making sure that we have SOPs for rapid nutrition assessment, a methodology, SOPs, and in place that will be used at early phase of the crisis, maybe then you assign your nutrition information working group as a responsible entity, and you task that group. So it's not on the shoulders of one person, but it's on a group, an existing working group. Or if you, I don't know, if you want to make sure that you have some key guidelines and protocols in place approved by government, and thinking, the simplified approaches. If you want to be able to use them at early phase of an emergency task, the technical working group may be working on CMAM as being responsible to have those things in place, approved, and with people trained on. Because I still, though I clearly understand that it's a bit of a big task to do, but it's still think that this is a mean really to get more engagement from partners, for them to be responsible for some of the work that needs to happen as part of the work of the sector or cluster. So yeah, I think I would say let's give it a try. Let's see what can be useful and how it can work for you in your different contexts. And yeah, in the guides, there are some examples of preparedness actions. And I have a template where an Excel file where I put some of them already, but if this can be useful. And anyone with an example of preparedness actions being consolidated and costed also, because maybe this is what is missing a little bit in this template, is that as much as possible, once you have prioritized a few key preparedness actions you really want to implement in the near future, and maybe you need some money to, I don't know if it's about developing a training curriculum and training some emergency personnel. Maybe you need a bit of money. Maybe you don't need money. Maybe you can do your preparedness action as part of your regular work. But if you need a bit of money tied to some of the activities, this is also a good moment where you reflect on that. Okay.
Cecily, just to clarify that, I didn't mean doing all those kind of things alone, but I was referring to populating the matrix during the workshop. If someone has to do it in advance, but it is basically is not doing all those kind of work alone. It's not possible. Definitely, the technical working group, they are the one doing it, even here. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I got you now. Okay.
And Cecil, maybe just to add, Ruth here, sorry, I forgot to raise my hand.
It's okay.
Just to add that in addition to what Isaac has said, I think at the beginning of the workshop, we had questions for you around the work that is already being done by agencies. For example, we have EPRP that is being done by, say, UNICEF. And then you have also the preparedness initiatives by WFP. You also have at OCHA level some of the preparedness that we do contribute to as sectors, you know, and we, you know, at ICCG level, at intercluster coordination group level. So I think maybe our starting point, I would see myself looking at what is already in place in terms of, you know, at the country level. And maybe that is what can be the initial population of what we've agreed, because it's linked to resources. If I look at what partners have done, say UNICEF, it's also linked to resources. It's linked to, for example, partnerships that are already in place in terms of as part of preparedness, for example. So I think that would be a starting point. And yes, it's always better when you don't start from a clean slate with partners. So it makes it easier to build on to what is existing. So I think what's existing is piecemeals that are now currently scattered with different partners. It's bringing it together in this and then building onto it then in terms of filling the gaps. Over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ruth. That's a very indeed a very relevant point, and thank you for sharing how you're envisioning how this could work in your country. I hope everybody can start appreciating or thinking like that as well. Okay, colleagues, thank you very much. We're going to do a short break, short health break, and so we come back in 10 minutes. Yeah, around 3:15.